second, right now, I want to remind you, you can picture this. You've saved up for months, you finally booked your holiday, bags are packed, excitement is boiling up, and then your flight gets delayed or cancelled for hours. Or yet, you're actually traveling and then your bag disappears halfway across the world. Well, that comes with traveling, and it's a fair share of hiccups that we all experience, and that's why it is important to insure yourself with NCBA IG travel insurance, who cover you 100%, whether it's lost luggage, canceled flights, medical emergencies, even unexpected interruptions. It's like having a safety net so you can focus on the adventure, not the mishaps, because you travel with a peace of mind. Every journey becomes the memory that it's supposed to be if you insure every moment with NCBA, so you need to go for it. Speaking of interruptions, the flight that was bringing the remains of the late Raila Odinga was supposed, according to the DP, to land at 8:30, but now it's been moved to an hour, so it'll be landing in about an hour and 15 minutes time. That's the information we just got from our news team, so we're grateful for that. It's been delayed slightly, but it's something that's expected. What's unexpected is a guy who's riding a bike around the mall just now. Some weird things happen in this world.
You know, that's
weird
what happens
things.
when you're looking at things from an aquarium.
Weird things we see. But what's not weird is the situation that we're going through as a country. This is a conversation we're about to delve into where Dismas Mokua, who happens to be in studio for the second time at Capital FM. We've hosted him here. Used to do with him back in the days in another place, in another life. But he does presidential politics. He's an analyst, and it's fitting because we're talking about a man who went for that presidential seat about five times, and which he didn't win. Yes. But it's not just about his fight to become the president of this republic. It's about what he did for democracy and everything else that surrounds us. All right. So first and foremost, welcome, Kabisa Dismas. Good to see you again.
Thank you very much. Although the producer should have warned me about the high energy levels so that I have an energy drink or coffee. Oh, I can feel the energy.
We kind of do that. So
I hope I'll match.
You will. You're always the life of the party. Listen, it's honestly a tough time for all of us, as a nation. We can discuss this and that, and we'll get into everything, including what happens after, but it would be not fitting of us to not look and get an overview of the feeling and the mood in this country and where we stand after the passing of Raila Odinga.
Well, it's, when you look at social media, the legacy media, and have a conversation with politicians and everybody else, the nation is in deep mourning because Mr. Raila Odinga is not just Mr. Raila Odinga. He's been described in many ways, an enigma, a Gwambo, Jacom, an extraordinary man. Baba, whether you like him or not, is that fingerprints in your life. Like, for instance, when you talk about the 2010 Constitution, there's a very high chance that in the absence of Mr. Raila Odinga, we would have not achieved that Constitution in good time. So most of the civil liberties that we enjoy in Kenya, that our neighbors envy, one can actually say that Mr. Raila Odinga, among others, take credit for that. And then secondly, Mr. Raila Odinga was an encyclopedia. I had the privilege of interacting with him a couple of times. And you bring any topic under the sun, he will discuss it to detail. If you're discussing politics in Africa, he will discuss politics in any country into detail. If it's about football, he understands the subject. You talk about global warming, he understands the subject. So for majority of people who would interact with him, they would find him an amazing encyclopedia. And then number three, and this is now real politic, is a man who knew how to create economic and political instability if his interests are not served. Like, for instance, because of the amazing political capital he had, he would, at his pleasure, cause political instability in Kenya and economic instability in Kenya. And he is somebody whose opinion, I think it was more powerful than most institutions you have in Kenya. The Supreme Court can declare an election free, fair, and credible, but if Mr. Raila Odinga takes an opposite position, about 50% of the nation believes so. You remember when we were getting a new constitution and Kenyans were invited to socialize with the documents, about 50% of the population said, why should I bother to read the draft constitution? I'm waiting for Raila's opinion. If Raila says it's a good document, I'm aligned. If it says it's horrible, I'm aligned. So it became a very, very, very powerful personality. And then finally, for politicians, the politicians who simply won elections by having a selfie or having a cup of coffee with him, and then, you go use it for your campaign, you would easily win an election, especially from his strongholds. So as he exits now the political space in Kenya, I can bet my head there's a number of politicians from Luo Nyanza right now who are managing medical conditions. Right now they're sweating profusely because they know probability of them winning the 2027 election is almost zero. In many parts of Luo Nyanza, you'd invite Mr. Raila Odinga to come to your constituency headquarters, and the moment he raises your hand, he says, I need this young man or this young woman or this gentleman or this lady in Nairobi, it's a wrap. You've already won.
Yeah.
And then there are people from Mount Kenya who made political careers or fortunes by simply insulting Mr. Raila Odinga. You even remember the late Wamala Kijana said about something called Raila phobia. That the people who hate Raila do that with a passion. And the people who love him do it with a passion. Some people have been interviewed yesterday and they were crying. They said, Mr. Raila Odinga, why did you go without giving me notice? Why did you go without letting me know that you are leaving? So in my view, probability of having another Mr. Raila Odinga in our generation is almost zero.
I love the fact that you just walked us down memory lane, because just yesterday I was lying in bed and I was thinking, what? Life is short. And I was thinking how impactful and powerful this man actually was. Because I don't know very many people who can stand up and say, no, I won, I am swearing myself in, and they're not touched. Like, he was an enigma that cannot be understood. You've already alluded to a discussion we'll have later on in which this void that has been left, what kind of impact it will. Who I agree with you are probably sweating right now big time. And also, when in his absence, you said, we may not have had that 2010 constitution. In his absence, and it's a conversation for later on this hour, the President of the Republic of Kenya, the fifth President, William Samoei Ruto, has gone and signed it, signed, what do you call, eight bills. There were eight.
I think they're fine.
About eight. I think there are about 8 of them. And some of them questions, just hours after Raila Odinga died. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that. But with just over an hour to go before his ball touches down a JKIA for the final time, what are you expecting to see, keeping in mind the choreography the government has told us will be done and carried out over the course of the next few days?
First of all, I want us to give President Ruto credit because the proclamation issued yesterday and the way the entire funeral has been planned. And, we are made to understand the family that he had left a will that he should be interred within 72 hours, which indeed is a very good thing. And, when you've got a statesman in the space of Mr. Raila Odinga, and in as much as we talk about the animal farm, of course, Mr. Raila Odinga was in an entirely, using the local language in Kenya, he was in an entirely different WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
He had really no peers. So the way he's been treated, in my view, it befits him. And then also this issue of 72 hours.
Yeah.
Most of us who come from western part of Kenya, when a big man or a big woman passes on, there are so many variables. You see, the costs of a funeral, logistics, and this is one of the many things Mr. Raila Odinga and other elders in that part of the world wanted to champion on reducing the cost of funerals. Because, the cost of funerals in Western Kenya is extremely high. It's very expensive. And during COVID, people actually discovered you can do the entire process within a day. But after COVID was managed and everything else, then we went back to the status quo, and it becomes very expensive. And one remembers also that General Gola had indicated as much that within a very short space of time, let's do this. And also for Mr. Raila Odinga, I think that is credible, and that is something we need to pick from. And apart from Western Kenya, in Western Africa, it can take up to 3 months before somebody is laid to rest. So
Ghana, it's crazy.
Yeah, it could even be up to a year. So, in my view, the speed should be done I mean, it should be a very high speed. He is laid to rest, and then people go through the healing process, and then we say it was nice doing business.
Do you think it was? Do you think it's more just about the cost? Because now you have to balance cultural experiences and expectations vis-a-vis the cost. At the same time, when it comes to someone like Raila Odinga, who was such an influential figure, could national healing be sped up?
Well, I don't think it's about the costs, because we are made to understand that Mr. Raila Odinga is not a poor man.
Yeah.
Well, he's probably a millionaire or a billionaire, so the cost will not be an issue. And even if he didn't have a coin, Kenya would come together and ensure that he gets a befitting send off. I think it's because Mr. Raila Odinga has been raising the bar at every stage. So even assuming that he's the one who did the will and everything is being done according to his wishes, again he's raising the bar and saying, can we do this thing within 72 hours? You know, the Muslims do it within a day before the sun sets. And in my view, that is something we need to emulate.
I think, very interesting number of days ahead of us, all through to Sunday. And of course, there's the symbolism of everything that is happening, that is going to be happening at Parliament, at Nyayo Stadium, and then back to his resting place all the way in Bondo. And I can't help but bring two things into this conversation: substance and symbolism. As far as, again, the choreography that we're seeing from the state. Do you see either, how would I put it? There's a lot of respect going to the man, but also we are seeing people who were his sworn political opponents that are coming out with very flowery statements, which again, we have to give the man his flowers. But then again, is it performative? Is there substance to it? Or is it just one of those things that had to happen?
Well, in my view, I think it demonstrates that Kenya as a democracy, we've really matured. Because the people you're talking to it was just merely political competition.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be people saying, Yuri Muganga, Mutua, Vitendawili, but it was just for purposes of winning an election. And it actually doesn't mean that these people really are enemies, because I've had the opportunity now of interacting with politicians for about 2.5 decades. They would be having a cup of tea at Serena in the evening, and then when they watch news, they would be having a cup of tea at a 5-star hotel, and then when they're watching news, then they say, kesho nitakunyorosha ama leo nimekunyorosha. It's simply because it's a political competition. Really, it's not that there's bad blood. And in my view, when Mr. Raila Odinga passes on, then every single Kenyan is under the obligation. If you've got nasty things to say about you, then I have some ice cubes in your mouth. You remain quiet. But I mean, you know what the leaders have said, like Rigiji, Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua, and everybody else, which is really, I mean, very impressive. And not just that, even the regional leaders. I've seen messages of condolences from Ethiopia, from Zambia, from everybody else, which in my view is a good thing. Although I've not seen a message from Donald Trump, so I don't know what he's waiting for. But it shows that Raila was not just a Kenyan leader. He was a Pan-Africanist, and he was highly regarded. Now, talking about substance over form or color, the way he's going to be given the military honors, it shows that when you are alive, and there's a Swahili saying, tenda wema nenda zako, that if you live to some ideals that are aligned to national and public interests, then when you pass on, or when your time comes to an end, the nation will honor you. And there is no way people can fail to honor Mr. Raila Odinga. You may not like him. He may have caused you to lose a job, as he has done many times. But still, you know that in the absence of Mr. Raila Odinga, there are so many benefits you would not enjoy in Kenya. And you know, for the longest time, it's only Mr. Raila Odinga who would look at any head of state in the eye and tell him, Mr. President, you are wrong. Something I think now Mr. Rigathi Gachagua is attempting to do, although he's doing it with a toxic brand, toxic politics, but he's attempting to do that. But one thing that we must learn from Mr. Raila Odinga is consistency. Because, from the time he joined the political space, he's been very consistent on what he considers to be the right things. And that is why he created this very powerful, emotional, and most of the time irrational connection with people. Because for his supporters, when he says jump, they will never ask why. The next question is how high? Because they knew that he has done everything right and it's going to work. And that is what gave him amazing political capital. And then on another regard, he had an elephant's memory. he knew everybody everywhere. I can bet in your village, he probably knows the Shushan in your village. He probably knows the maize roaster in your village, because that is how he picked his intelligence. And I don't know how he did this. And wherever you interact with him once, then you meet with him again after maybe 5 years, he would remind you where you are seated and probably even what kind of drink you had. So he had that genuine interest in people. And that is why he had this very powerful connection with the Kenyans. And you recall, at some stage, it's only Mr. RAILA Odinga who had capacity to declare a national holiday without having any constitutional office. I mean, he says tomorrow there's no work, and that there's no work. And the only thing which would bother him, if he was going to have a rally anywhere, especially within Nairobi, is only the public address system, that he ensured it works perfectly. But everything else that are people coming out, you know, by the way, for most politicians, when they're having political rallies at Kamkunji or wherever, filling the stadium to capacity is at all order. There is active mobilization. People demand for sitting allowance, walking allowance. When he says, let's meet tomorrow at a particular place,
people will show
the only
up.
thing he works on is a public address system. And the place is packed to the rafters.
It was a memory that we can definitely not forget about. We do need to take a break in just a short while. Then we come back and we talk a bit more on the ODM succession. What's the future looking like? The political shift,
That is a
because
hot
that is
potato.
going to be absolutely different. Life as we know it is about to change 100% after Monday, on Tuesday morning, Kwenda Mbele. We'll get into that one. Before we do jump into sports, though, Moko, I'd love to get your thoughts on Nyayo National Stadium. Interesting choice. Very intentional, I presume. I'm just trying to pick your brain as to why, what that symbolizes.
Well, without opening a conspiracy box, but you see, Nyayo National Stadium, Nyayo is associated with President Moi. And a few days ago, when President Ruto was Kabarak, he told the people gathered there, and he said to Gideon, you are Moi's lastborn, you know, biological. But Moi is lastborn, political. So maybe there is symbolism. And then I also think that maybe they wanted to take care of the interests of people who want to come to Nyayo. Because if you take it to Kasarani, maybe it's very far from town. And you know, his core audience, his core support base, it's across the road from Nyayo. Maybe they wanted to make it easy for people to make it to Nyayo. Although for his supporters, even if you say you're going to have this service in Mosocho, my village, they will still make their way. So maybe I think because it's going to be a public holiday, they wanted a place which is very convenient, which can be secured. Because I understand we are going to have heads of state or representatives, so they need a place which is very safe and secure. And maybe a place that the military and NYS and other security agencies can take control of. But when you talk about now the ODM, succession politics, at that stage now we must follow Mr. RAILA Odinga. You know, there was no succession plan at ODM. You have, I think, 3 deputy party leaders. And Mr. RAILA Odinga was the glue holding ODM together. In the absence of that glue, probability of the party splitting is extremely high.
We'll delve into that conversation in just a second, but you can see how passionate he is about especially that conversation. Dismas Mokua in the house, Capital in the Morning, Chico and Falaris with you.
Sticking right to these conversations, stick around because up to 9 o'clock. And then in the next hour, we are going to be telling you more about how you can secure yourself once you have that Samsung Galaxy S25 FE. 24 months warranty. 24 months, who even gives you that?
Good question.
Are you struggling to find the right candidate for your business? Recruiting shouldn't drain your time or budget. With our basic free listing, you can post your job with 0 fees and connect with thousands of qualified candidates instantly. Whether you're an SME, a fast-growing startup, or a recruitment firm, we have your next great hire. It's simple, it's fast, it's effective. Visit brightermonday.co.ke/employer and post your job for free today. Brighter Monday Kenya. Quality hire, 0 fees. Tune into The Fuse with me, Anwara, every weekday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for more information.
70 record closing highs.
Markets move fast. Don't get left behind. The Financial Forecast with Phalaris Wambui brings you insights from global to African economies.
When the stock market is booming, we're made to believe the economy is booming.
Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. only on 98.4 Capital FM. Capital Sports Update, where sports is taken seriously.
Kenya's top amateur golfer John Legirma of Nairobi Royal Golf Club claimed victory at the Johnny Walker Classic, the sixth leg of the Sunshine Development Tour East Africa swing, following a dramatic playoff. Legirma beginning the final round with a commanding 4-shot lead over his closest challenger Njoroge Kibugu, seeing then his advantage wiped out as Kibugu mounted a spirited comeback despite dropping a single shot on the par 4 11th hole. Legirma held his nerve, forcing a sudden death playoff after both players actually tied on 10 under par after regulation of play. On the play-off hole, which was the par 4 18th hole, Legirma kept his composure, carding a par as Kibugu faltered with a bogey, handing the home favorite a hard-fought and very emotional victory. Congratulations to Legirma. Meanwhile, Football Kenya Federation have suspended all matches scheduled in honor of the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who died yesterday while undergoing treatment in India. This follows President William Ruto's announcement of a 7-day national mourning period and flags to be flying at half-mast. In fact, even at the DP's residential place in Karen, it's flying at half-mast. Now, 7 fixtures in the FKF Premier League were scheduled starting Saturday, and those ones included Mara Sugar, who are going to be up against Bidco United as APS Bomet were set to be away to Kariobangi Sharks. England avoided a shock defeat by Pakistan at the Women's World Cup, being saved by, get this, heavy rain in Colombo. Christopher Colombo. I don't know why that reggae jam just hit me, but it just did.
What is that jam?
I know, right? Christopher Colombo.
Colombo,
You don't know?
Columbus.
Columbus, yeah, but we
But
now
they
because
say
of
Colombo.
the name, you have
Oh.
to don't let facts get in the way of a good story. Aye, Phalaris, how many times?
Your mistake was bringing me into the story.
Yeah, but yeah, true. Fun at parties, she has always been. An inspired bowling performance for Pakistan saw England slump to a 79-7 after 25 overs before the first heavy downpour began. England, by the way, now travel to Indore to face India and Australia before they conclude the group stages against, where flatter pitches are expected at both venues.
Capital Sports Update, up to the minute sports, where sports is taken seriously.
Let's have one final test. Throw the switches.
Good morning.
Your morning dose of news, fun,
I have music in my life with Sam.
Allow me to demonstrate.
and all the hits with Chico and Phalaris, right here on 98.4 Capital FM.
Our glory lies in unity, our strength in our accord. Hatred and disparity we cannot afford. Our task is incomplete if our souls and minds don't meet. If there's one in the multitude who does not share our attitude, to work, to dream, to live for Kenya only. Let my flag remind me of my sacred duty. Black for the people, green for the land, red to gain our self-control. Our neighbors die in grief, having lacked in love's belief. Now their soils contaminated with the blood of hatred. So I'll work, I'll dream, I'll live for Kenya only. Let my flag remind me of my sacred duty. Black for the people, green for the land, red for the price of freedom, and white for peace in Kenya. My pride, my strength, and my joy always will be Kenyan in pride and strength and joy. Peace is so fragile, if for a moment's gone as soon. I swear here and now, there's not much I would not do to protect our peaceful unity, that we may live to see maturity. I'd slave, I'd face adversity to preserve our home's integrity. I'd weep, I'd mourn, I'd pray for Kenya only. Let my flag remind me of my sacred duty. Black for the people, green for the land, red for the price of freedom, and white for peace in Kenya. My pride, my strength, and my joy always will be Kenyan in pride and strength and joy.
Can't help hearing that song from Eric Wainaina and thinking of the late Raila Odinga, who is the man at the center of our conversation right now. A man that defined Kenya in whichever way you look at it, not always in positive light, but we will remember his legacy in terms of what he did for democracy in this country, and then at one point get back into other conversations. However, right now, let's talk about more about him. In about 50 minutes, we should be receiving his body, and then the plan is for it to from 12 to 5 viewing at a parliament, and then we've seen the national government already, the National Assembly already talking about how from 10 a.m. to past in the wee hours of the night, over the 300 MPs will get a chance to give their personal condolences. Senate is doing it from 2 p.m. A lot of things are happening around the death of Raila Odinga, and yet we cannot help but think of the future.
Yeah, now as we think of the future, we must look at President Ruto and his foreign policy. And in my view, Kenya has got an excellent relationship with India. And the Indian Prime Minister was among the first people to send a message of condolences. That's Mr. Modi. Now, Mr. Modi's message of condolences raises a million questions. Can you imagine the Prime Minister of the biggest democracy in the world recognizing Mr. Raila Odinga and passing a message of condolences and saying that Kenya and India have got an excellent relationship? So in my view, this is the kind of things that as a nation we need to encourage, that you have President Ruto running the official foreign policy, but Mr. Raila Odinga is equally close to Mr. Modi. And when he passes on, Mr. Modi says, this gentleman here is going to be given military honors, even in India. I mean, you are made to understand that it's a military plane which flees body from Kerala to Mumbai. And then it also raises questions around medical tourism. Because part of the reason why Mr. Raila Odinga went to India was for purposes of medical care. And this thing they're calling alternative medicine. So in my view, there are many things we need to learn and ask ourselves that if there's a good facility in India where Mr. Raila Odinga can go for attention, What about Mura and Alima, the normal Kenyan, who may not afford to go there?
Yes.
Why can't we create partnerships with India and bring those facilities in Kenya? And Kenya's relationship with India is, it's, they're the ones who put up our railway line long time ago.
Yeah.
And the Indian community has had a huge impact in Kenya. There's Indian businessmen in every town in Kenya. In fact, my first employer was Indian in Kisii, a gentleman called Dogo Khan, the owner of Shabana Hardware. Then after that, my third employer, Jinadin Karaoke also. So there's a very rich legacy that we can build on, and many things we can learn from India. Majority of people in Kenya may not know that India has got a very proactive foreign policy. If you go to the States and you appear like you've been in the States, it's Indians who run the show. When you're talking about the ICT sector, they're the ones who run the show. And maybe there's something we can learn from India. Do you know at some stage the president of the World Bank was Indian? And the UK Prime Minister was Indian. How come we don't have this proactive foreign policy where we tell Kenyans, you go to Italy, get married there, go to the US, get married there, go to whichever country. And then one day, when you're having a G7 or a G20, you have the president of Kenya, and then you've got another Kenyan American called Barack Obama, and then you've got another Kenyan Italian called Francisco, whatever it is, and then you have 4 Kenyans in a decision-making panel. That is why sometimes I really get surprised when people don't like the President Ruto's policy of sending people outside Kenya. Like, for instance, if you've got a bachelor's degree in nursing and there's no job in Kenya, why can't you go to New Zealand or Australia? Now, I was preparing you for the elephant in the room, which is succession politics. Now, for some reason, political parties in Kenya are special purpose vehicles owned by these powerful political personalities. If you look at ODM, UDA, or indeed another political party, there's actually no difference apart from the personalities. In the UK, if you look at the Conservative or the Labour, you know what they stand for. But in Kenya, it's just about the personalities. And that is why most of the political party leaders are hesitant to develop a succession policy. That in the events that I'm not around, who is going to run the show? Now, right now for ODM, nobody knows who is going to run the political party.
Correct.
Is it Joe? Is it Oparanya? Is it Mbadi? I understand those are experts now in the government. But is it Governor Simbarati now? How long? Is it Governor Abdul Somado of Mombasa who is running the show? There are no solid structures. Now, in the absence of that, probability of having ODM Asili, ODM Original, ODM A, ODM B is very high because Mr. Raila Odinga was the only person in the room who would call everybody into order and even bank tables. But right now, I don't know whether there's anybody within ODM who at the flick of his fingers can summon a meeting. That is number one. And then number two, there are many people we need to take care of right now. These are the people who have simply won an election because of Mr. Raila Odinga's endorsement. And right now they are lost for words because they know they're going to face significant challenges in the 2027 general elections.
It's actually interesting you've brought that up because Phalaris was reading an op-ed a bit earlier in one of the dailies, the Daily Nation, and it'll be interesting to hear this quote before we delve into this one.
It actually speaks very heavily about the shift and the gap that has been left. And of course, the title of it is Raila Exit Will Expose Political Opportunists. So it's not just Raila who has died, so have the political lives of the many posers who survived by hanging on to his coat, which you have alluded to. For years, Raila was the oxygen of opposition politics, the gravitational force that held together politicians who lacked conviction but thrived under his name. Now, without his shadow to hide under, they stand exposed, empty, politically naked. Now, this moment marks a critical turning point for Kenyan politics and the political landscape. For 2 decades, our politics was revolved around personalities rather than ideologies. Raila's exit forces the country to confront the uncomfortable truth that we have not built a culture of ideological politics. Instead, we have nurtured opportunism. Those who have depended on Raila's charisma must now prove they can stand on their own merit or face political extinction. And this is just but a section of this op-ed.
That is in my view, that is very, very solid thinking. Because you see, for Kenya to grow as a democracy, we must first of all embrace the democratic meritocracy. That when we are going for any elections, it's the sharpest tools in the shed that win. And they must have character, capacity, and competence. But some of the people who have been arguing around Mr. Raila Odinga may not necessarily have those three traits. But the way they make their way to the National Assembly, Senate, others even become governors. And maybe that's part of the reason why there's been a very poor voter turnout in many parts of Luo Nyanza. Because after the primaries, I mean, if you get the ODM ticket, probability of you getting to winning whichever seat it is, it's extremely high.
Yeah.
Of course, there are a few exceptions. So people would say, we have 6 elections. So why should I wake up in the morning to just only go for one election, the presidential election, when I can already tell who's going to be my MCA, my member of the National Assembly, women rep, and all those other positions. So people just stay back at home, get a cup of nyuka, which is porridge, and then they start watching news.
Just was out of curiosity, who are some of these politicians who we should be looking at and thinking now they are sweating, they need medical consideration, like you were pointing out? Who are these people who have been, for lack of a better phrase, hanging on to the coat of the late Raila?
I'm not sufficiently wealthy to take care of litigation matters, so I don't want to expose myself to libel and slander. But the names are in the public space.
Yeah.
If you ask your members of the audience to make calls, they would name for you without hesitation. They will drop so many names. Yesterday, if you paid close attention to the people who went to Mr. Raila Odinga's residence in Karen, and you saw the way they were seated there, you don't need to understand political psychology or any advanced subjects just to read their body language.
Yeah.
And they knew right there their careers have come
It
to
is done.
an abrupt end. Now, there are others who went to that homestead, not because they want to commiserate with the family, but because they are saying now, we have freedom. I know, where I come from, we are not supposed to discuss such kind of stuff about people who passed on. But now we are not discussing Mr. Raila Odinga, the human being. We are discussing Mr. Raila Odinga, the enigma, the political
figure.
Personality, Agwambo, Jacom. There are people who have remained latent for a long time because of Mr. Raila Odinga. They've not been kinetic because when, and again it has to be said, while his father had a very high capacity for top talent. If you remember, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga kept the company of James Orengo, Kiraitu Murungi, Paul Mwite. Some of Kenya's sharpest tools. The same may not be said about Raila Odinga. Well, again, you don't expect that maybe Raila is supposed to be the exact photocopy of his father. But there are a number of people right now who are actually saying freedom. That is why the elections to watch in Kenya in 2027 is going to be in Luo Nyanza, because there is going to be serious meritocracy. I went to St. Mary's School, Yala, so majority of my friends are from that part of the world. This time round, the campaigns in Luo Nyanza are going to be high octane. The same is going to happen in Mount Kenya. What Rigiji talks about Murima politics. He says he's got 7 million votes on his back pocket. But guess what? There are people from Mount Kenya who have just won elections by demonizing Mr. Raila Odinga. What we spoke about on Raila phobia. This time round, if you go to a podium, you say, I love Raila Odinga, people will roll their eyes.
Yeah.
I hate Raila Odinga, people will roll their eyes.
Yeah.
You have to come and it's not going to be ideas cross-pollination. It's going to be a battle of ideas. Especially if you come from Luo Nyanza and you're not going to present good ideas in good English. It's a wrap.
Two things. We have 8 minutes. Two things I want us to touch on. I don't know how we'll condense that within that time frame. But first and foremost, what we've spoken about, how the political landscape shifts, and in a serious way, because walk out on Moi once he said, I'm endorsing Uhuru, walks out, goes, shikanas mkono with the late Kibaki, boom, in comes Kibaki, then walks in, handshake, Uhuru Kenyatta, and then the populists go like, no, we're actually angry at you, so we're going against Raila. Like you said, it's either pro-Raila or against Raila, and he's had a huge impact on how elections will go. So it's quite interesting for me to get to pick your brain about 2027. At the same time, apart from the politicians, MPs who are running for office, we also have a cabinet reshuffle that is looming. And it's quite interesting because now that Raila is past, he is no longer there, the influence that he may have had, considering where we expect ODM to go, if anywhere at all, I'm wondering what you see developing on that front, if indeed the likes of Joho, Mbadi keep their jobs, or their leverage is out the window and out goes them, and in come Gideon Moy's people.
Well, yesterday I listened to a number of Raila supporters, the ones who were saying, Babu Lenda kabla hujatupatia notice, but they're very happy, according to using their words, alikuwa amewapeleka kwa serikali na amewacha kwa serikali, and they're saying hawatatoka huko, wako kwa hiyo serikali, and which maybe points to the fact that the cabinet secretaries you mentioned, probability of them getting fired is almost zero. However, President Ruto now must recalibrate his 2027 strategy, because Mr. Raila Odinga was going to be a key pillar, a key anchor, and in his absence, he has now to go back to the drawing board. Can you imagine what would happen if the ODM members of the National Assembly and Senate call Munyoro DCP and say, can we have a cup of tea? That will be turbulence, serious turbulence for President Ruto. Serious turbulence. So, Mr. Ruto, being the clever politician he is, right now as this morning, I'm sure he's got a big piece of white paper and a pencil, recalibrating and coming up with a new strategy on how to make progress. So, probability of President Ruto kicking out the experts from ODM out of the administration is almost zero, and it would amount to political suicide.
I'm very curious whether now the exit of Raila is Kenya hitting the reset button, and what kind of opportunity this presents to a crop of new leaders that could emerge, that do not have clout to any party, do not have clout towards a figurehead like Raila. What is the opportunity here that we are maybe missing? And second, is it a reset?
Well, it's one is reminded of Dr. Martin Luther King, that now people are going to be judged by their contents, by their IQ, and how they present the ideas. Because in the past, we were told at some stage when James Orengo was running for Senate, he didn't even campaign. He didn't even have a poster. Because Mr. Raila Odinga said, this is one of the sharpest lawyers in Kenya. I want him in Nairobi to assist me navigate this turbulence. So please vote for him. And on the strength of Mr. Raila Odinga's word, he got what I did. You remember some time ago when the late J.J. Kamoto said that even if a dog ran on a certain party ticket, it would actually win an election in Mount Kenya. So that these people who've actually been part of Mr. Raila's bandwagon, now the opportunity we're calling research may actually exist. Because now, you are not going to go to the National Assembly if you are in Mount Kenya by saying Mr. Raila Odinga is uncircumcised.
Yeah.
That one will not wash anymore. You are not going to go to win an elective position by having a cup of tea with anybody associated with the Raila Odinga family. Now, things must be on merit. That is why the elections in Lunyans are going to be very solid. And in my view, it introduces now the democratic meritocracy. People with character, capacity, and competence. But we must still give Mr. Raila Odinga credit. Can you imagine a normal Kenyan who is more powerful than most of the institutions you have around that town? Can you imagine a Kenyan who passes on in India and the head of the biggest democracy in the world says, this is my friend, I'm going to give him the kind of honor that he deserves? I'm not sure whether there are many other people who would have that kind of facility. Can you imagine? Technically speaking, Raila Odinga is not in government, technically speaking, but it's getting a state honors. Those are military colors, and especially for us from the countryside, we love those military colors. We love seeing those policemen in their policemen as well as the military guys in their uniform. Can you imagine a man that allows whose fingerprints allow us to speak freely? You know, in the past, I don't know how old you are, but when we were growing up, there was something called special branch. You wouldn't even have a conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but with the 2010 constitution,
Yeah.
now you can call
speak.
anybody.
Interesting
Yeah.
you should say that, because we got a message earlier on at 6:36 from Dennis Nortennis, also known as Dennis on Tita, and he said, morning, a giant has fallen. I remember special branch officers back in the day, you couldn't just say the name of the president. Democracy was paid for dearly by Matiba Shikuku and friends alongside Raila Amolo Odinga.
Actually, no, because I do a lot of international work, I go to many countries. People cannot even mention the president by name. They have to say HE. But in Kenya, you can say Raila, Agwash, Jacom.
Yeah.
I mean, some people call the president Kasongo. Other people call the president Kenyatta
Baba Shalin.
In other countries, you do that. You'll find yourself having a conversation with law enforcement officers. So these are some of the small things we take for granted.
Yeah.
Even the demonstrations we have, the Gen Z, in part it's because of Mr. Raila Odinga. You know, in other countries, you can't just do a demonstration like this.
Yeah, you
You will disappear into thin air. So it's Raila Odinga. I mean, even the freedom we have of the freedom of the press in part is because of Mr. Raila Odinga. So the gentleman must be given credit. And you know, we must accept that it was not an angel, he had his flaws, but his contribution to society, not just in Kenya. You even recall when there was a crisis in Ivory Coast, he was called in to go and have a conversation with those people.
Yeah.
So it's somebody that we must emulate. And in my view, I'm hoping that the family will accept that we name something, a university or an airport. Raila, you know, like you have Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. In my view, we need to have a Raila Agwambo Jacom International something, so that we can remember the gentleman.
Valaris actually was like, maybe we should get our holiday and call it Democracy Holiday,
Day.
well, in honor of him.
I would disagree with that. We've got too many public holidays.
We need more. You disagree.
we need more.
A break.
Oh, we need more.
We need some breathers.
I don't think a lot of Kenyans would love you for that.
This was a quick one. Before we delve into news, just your final thoughts. Where in heaven's name is next for ODM? Now that the glue is gone.
Probability of the political party melting away is extremely high unless a miracle happens. Because Mr. Raila Odinga was the glue. And this is a challenge with most of the African politicians. When they exit, I mean, look at Kanu. I did not mean that Gideon Moi is strong and understand it's got a bad balance. Even Kanu would have disappeared. So in Kenya, we must come up with this appetite of having political parties anchored on ideologies or philosophies, so that right now we shouldn't be having a conversation on whether ODM is going to survive. Right now we should be seeing a leadership contest, the way we see it happening in the UK. That people are coming out. Anyway, we can't do it in Africa because we can't start saying that I want to take over the political party before the body is lowered. But we should be having conversations. Is it Simbarati? Abdul Somad? Is it
Sifuna?
Is it Anyang' Nyong'o? But my view is unsolicited advice. Let ODM give Anyang' Nyong'o the opportunity to steer the ship, because, you know, for him, he served his 2 terms, and they may not be interested in the presidency, and then he can guide the party to a future. Because even if you're not a member of ODM, it's in our interest that ODM survives as a political party, so that, you know, we enjoy multi-party politics. And then also, ODM is run by taxpayer resources. So everybody has got an insurable interest in the party.
I like that we continue enjoying multi-party politics, because, again, when we go back to just one party in Kenya, we are going back to where Raila Odinga took us from.
Yeah, and then also, I would discourage anybody who wants the leadership of ODM to be some sort of an inheritance, that they want a family member to take over the political party. No, we should discourage this thing of a political inheritance right now.
That's actually what the message has come via social media. The ODM party's official handle saying acting party leader Dr. Oburu Oginga. So perhaps that is what Dismas is alluding to and saying that's not a good move.
So the question is, sorry, I know you're extending your time. The question is, who has taken that decision?
Big question there.
Who has taken that decision? Is it the administrator, the social media administrator?
The National Executive Committee. They had a meeting this morning.
We must see those minutes. Please ask them to give us the minutes.
This was Mokua right here on Captain in the Morning. A conversation that could go on for long, but that's about all the time we had for it. We have news with David Sayega, who's actually informed us on that decision, and we'll keep you abreast of that situation 100%. Meanwhile, let's get into the news so we can figure out what else is happening in this country with 27 minutes to go before the body of the late Raila Odinga touches down for the final time at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport.
The best mix of music, Capital FM.
Capital Newsbeat.
RAILA flight becomes most trucked worldwide ahead of arrival. Friday declared public holiday to honor Raila Odinga, and flags fly at half-mast as Kenya mourns Raila. Good morning. I'm Davis Ayega.
Capital Newsbeat.
The body of the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga is expected to land at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport at 9:30 a.m., arriving from India, where he